This week on ESO Vlog, we review some of the major headlines of the last few weeks and the May 1st ZeniMax press release entitled The Road Ahead. Welcome everybody to my ESO Vlog number 14. Now I know by now many of you have become accustomed to my weekly build videos, and I do hope to return to that format as soon as possible. The problem is, because so many tooltips are broken or inaccurate in the game, in order to confidently present a build, you actually have to spec into that build and then check the combat logs to see what you are doing. At level 50, a rebuild like that can cost 25,000 gold a pop, so if you have 3 or 4 variations that you want to check for maximum efficiency, as you can see, that adds up into a small fortune, and the bottom line is, as far as in-game right now, my ass is broke. So hopefully in the near future I'll be able to get off said ass, go out, farm some gold, and present to you some more build videos, and I'm going to try and incorporate some gameplay videos as well. So this week let's take a look at some of the more recent headlines and the May 1st ZeniMax press release. The biggest issue over the last week was the controversy started by the poorly worded 1.1 patch notes denoting the 6 target per cast cap on AoE abilities. The wording of the patch notes implied that this was a nerf, but ZOS maintains that this was a bug fix and the cap was always as intended. So why is this a big issue? Well, if you're a PvE player, it's really not. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of any encounter where you're fighting more than 6 mobs that tend to live very long anyway, but for PvP, there are some twists. PvP players who are against the caps maintain that by limiting the number of players that an AoE ability hits, you encourage people to stack one on top of each other in large Zerg balls. In their minds, this would then mitigate things like proper positioning and individual player skill and reduce encounters to large Zerg balls where the largest number of players on a specific team will always win. Many of them would also tell you that this is exactly what ruined the Guild Wars 2 Realm versus Realm mass PvP environment. Now, those in favor of the caps say that without them, there's absolutely no reason why everybody wouldn't simply spec into the handful of cookie-cutter AoE abilities available to each class, destroying diversity. Also, that the Cyrodiil keeps are designed around bottlenecks, and 1 or 2 people with the right builds could destroy entire raid groups. You know, I'm not going to pretend to be a mass PvP expert. I cruise around Cyrodiil looking for smaller fights. Mass PvP just doesn't do it for me. I get my juice from one-on-one encounters. And actually heard that just as soon as I said it. That being said, based on my experience, I believe both of these hypotheses have merit. There's no question now that the word is out, and once these fixes go live, that the Zerg Ball is going to be the go-to strategy for a while. Whether or not siege engines can break up the Zerg Balls remains to be seen. Now, every controversy corn dog needs a little bit of mustard and a beer to wash it down. And in this case, ours comes in the form of Dark Ages of Camelot and the beta testing. Anytime people talk about the pre-Warcraft MMOs, they always ridiculously over-romanticize it, like EverQuest, or in this case, Dark Ages of Camelot. I know I played them both. But the fact remains that Dark Ages of Camelot is amongst the most highly respected mass PvP games still ever made. And ZeniMax is happy to tell anybody who's willing to listen about ESO's Dark Age lineage. But Dark Ages of Camelot did not have AoE caps for many of the reasons listed previously. And in the beta testing, a lot of the AoE abilities did not have caps. Now, ZOS is saying that that was a bug, and that's probably true, but the frustrations of the people who are against these caps are absolutely justified, whether or not their hypothesis about the Zerg Ball ever comes true or not. Link for the ZOS AoE cap response in the description. And our last piece of news was also PvP related, and that was the vampire bat swarm spam. For those of you that are unfamiliar with this issue, vampire players would use a combination of their mist form defensive and stacking their bat form ultimate to become virtually unkillable in Cyrodiil, and there are videos out there of single players wiping out entire raid groups. At first, of course, you had the overly defensive ESO player trying to deny this was an issue. Learn to play, noob, silver bolts. Now, I don't know how you cast silver bolts on an invisible player, but in either case, the math clearly shows that there was a problem here. On screen, what you're seeing is the formula for both a multiplicative stacking and an additive stacking. If you've watched my previous video, you know I like to manipulate the math of the game, and you also know that most MMOs work on a multiplicative system, not an additive system. The reason being multiplicative adds a nice enhancement when increasing something, and an excellent diminishing return system when decreasing something. There have been accusations that the ultimate reduction for vampires uses an additive system, and there are screenshots out there to support that accusation. However, I have no idea if they are photoshopped or not, and because they are irrelevant, I haven't investigated the issue. The reason they are irrelevant is whether you use, as you can see on your screen, additive or multiplicative, the cost is simply way too cheap and the ability is spammable. Full disclosure, the formulas you see on your screen are for sorcerers who have the extra 15% ultimate reduction. So right now you're probably asking, what do the numbers on the screen represent? Actually, if you're not asking that, this is probably the wrong video channel for you. I hear Shoddy's got a new video up, but if you are, then the numbers represent this. The 200 is the base cost for the Vampire Bat Swarm Ultimate. The 60% reduction is for being a stage 4 Vampire. The 20% reduction is for the Dragon Guard Ultimate Reduction set bonus. The 15% reduction is the Sorcerer passive. And the 5 or 3% reduction is either the former Emperor passive or the offset bonus, respectively. This kind of imbalance is to be expected in a new MMO, and it really doesn't bother me as much as it does other people. What is bothering me, though, is that they are not hotfixing it and that they're just patching it whenever that patch may come, which is kind of lame. But the good news is, on the public test server, they are addressing this in the right way. They are reducing the overall ultimate reduction via the vampire stage passives, which is good because all of the other reductions have been considered with a lot of other interrelations involved. So the vampire ones are the only standalone ones, and that was the smart way to go. Moving on to the community section, I wanted to highlight the wonderful work done by Mistborn in his ESO Unravelled series. Mistborn went through and authored 10 different videos in which he explores in great detail the various mechanics behind the game. He uses things like food buffs to manipulate his statistics on the fly so that you can see the direct relationship between those statistics and the various abilities in the game. There are some surprises out there, including magicka-based abilities that actually scale with weapon crit. Now, there are 10 different videos. Each one has their own theme. All of them are worth watching. Link on screen and in the description to his YouTube channel. And with that, we move to our feature section. This week, we are concentrating on the May 1st announcement entitled The Road Ahead. I am going to minimize this so that you can watch the gameplay footage. If you do desire to look at this press release for yourself, link in the description. As you can imagine, in The Road Ahead, Matt Fiore discusses not only where the game has been, but what's coming up in the immediate future and where they want to take the game long term. Now, the immediate upgrades are part of Update 1, which should be hitting the live servers over the next several days, maybe week and a half tops. Of all of the Update 1 upgrades, by far the two most important are Craglorn and the Trial System. Now, Craglorn is going to be the first adventure zone, and it is specifically designed for characters, veteran rank characters. And then the Trial System is more of a raid style that is designed for larger groups of up to 12 players. Now, I'm not on the public test server, so I haven't had a chance to run these instances, but I do have a couple of veteran rank 50s who need to be dusted off, so I am looking forward to them. It is important to note, though, that neither one of these are designed to be PvE bottlenecks or any kind of, let's call it, progression rating. This does concern me. Now, I understand that not everybody is a fan of progression rating, and I get that. And, you know, there are other ways to create some kind of bottleneck. And by bottleneck, I mean content that is challenging and isn't designed to be defeated in one sitting. Without something of this nature, Elder Scrolls Online seems to be following the same endgame strategy as Guild Wars 2 and Star Wars, and is quite possibly going to have the same catastrophic results. You can tell me that you're going to throw out some new instance every 6 weeks, but if it's coming out on a machine-like basis, how innovative or fun or, is that content going to be? And every 6 weeks is twice every 3 months. Are people going to want to continue to pay $45 over a 3-month period just so they can get 2 new instances that are designed to be completed in one afternoon? Now, I remember I did say I haven't had a chance to play these instances, and I do sincerely hope there is more depth to them than what I am thinking. And the Trials, which is the 12-player, what they call raid-style instance, will have a completion time leaderboard, but I don't think that's really the incentive to keep people around that they think that is. Everything else associated with Update 1 are the standard type of things that you would think that would come with an early MMO release patch. Some animation cleaning up, some class balancing issues, all the typical stuff. In the upcoming section, they take a more long-term view about what they want to implement in the game, and I want to make this very clear because there seems to be some misconception in the forums, and I guess you could probably say this about any game, but nothing in their upcoming feature section has any kind of concrete implementation date or even a guarantee that it's ever going to be put in, period. I don't know why, but when you read the forums, people think this is all going to happen next week. I would remind people that Warcraft on the Wrath of the Lich King box had mounted jousting combat, okay? So, again, until you're actually playing it, it's, just assume it may never come. Taking a look at the highlights, though, of the proposed upcoming changes, one of the more subtle ones that hasn't gotten a lot of play is the field of view adjustment. Now, this is something that was like the cause celeb in the beta test servers, the early beta test before they opened it to the public. Shortly after they implemented the first-person mode, this was something people kept saying, give me a fisheye, give me a fisheye. Let's make this more of an Elder Scrolls experience. I actually think this is a huge adjustment if they put this in. Let's also hope that it's not only just a field of view, but a depth of view to get rid of that, that legendary ESO fog that you always hear about. By the way, there are currently add-ons, I believe, that do get rid of that ESO fog. In fact, I'm probably going to I'll do a feature on one of those next week. The sexier items that actually have been getting all the attention, though, are the proposals for the Thieves Guild and Dark Brotherhood storylines and an accompanying justice system, which I'm going to assume is interrelated with the Thieves Guild and Dark Brotherhood storylines. There's very little information right now about what any of that is going to be, the storylines or the justice system. But there was something I remember, and it's not something a lot of people didn't know about Skyrim. In Skyrim, NPCs had an individual tolerance for crime. And if you stole somebody, you may not have known this, but, when you're walking down the street and all of a sudden you get jumped by goons, or hired thugs, a lot of times that was because you stole from somebody and that was their reaction to you stealing from them. And I would love to see a more complex system like that be applied to important NPCs in this game, where you're just walking along minding your own business, and either maybe a bounty is put out on you, or, you know, goons just run up and start kicking the shit out of you because you stole bread from somebody who doesn't appreciate, you know, bread being stolen. That would be something I would call immersion. Of all of the proposals, though, I think spellcrafting is probably my favorite. For those that came to ESO directly from Skyrim, spellcrafting wasn't part of Skyrim. I believe they changed the way they handled their database, and spells in Skyrim were no longer handled in a modular fashion. But spellcrafting was a big part of previous iterations of the Elder Scrolls, like Morrowind and Oblivion. And it basically allows you to create your own spells within a set series of guidelines. And it's, you know, not to throw out the word immersive again, but it really is very immersive for spellcasters, and it allows you to customize your player. I've really not liked the lack of a true dot type class spellcaster in the game, and with the visual cues buff system in this game, I don't know if that's as viable as what I think it might be. But I'll tell you what, I'm really looking forward to being able to play with that and make the kind of caster that I want to make. It's definitely a nice, you know, role-playing element. Some of the other new ideas might appeal to other gamers, so let's go ahead and run through those real quick. Horse racing. Now, I don't know if that's going to be just like a gambling money sink, a gold sink, or if there's going to be some mini games involved in that and you're actually racing the horse, but that could be a lot of fun. Talking about fleshing out the fishing system. I was a huge fishing addict in Warcraft. I think that might appeal to a lot of people. Armor dyes. Again, more customization. We have a lot of skins because of the racial motif system. Armor dye certainly going to help that situation as well. The Imperial City PvP dungeon proposal is intriguing as well. Is that going to be an instance battleground? That would certainly interest me, but I know a lot of players, I don't know why, but they have an aversion to battlegrounds. It's not like you have to participate in them. But I would love to see a Cyrodiil-based battleground. And last but not least is the Dragon Star Arena that is designed for groups. Now, this isn't going to be a PvP thing. This is going to be a trial based on a group of 4. This may be what saves the trial system, because I just don't know that people are going to want to get into groups of 12 to do a leaderboard type trial thing. You know, people want to get into large groups for very challenging raid type content. So that Dragon Star Arena may be really what kind of takes the trials to the next level, you know, increases the overall participation. And that is my show for this week. Any questions or concerns, in the bottom right-hand corner, you will see my Twitter address @Dracobor, or you can post in the comments section. I do try to reply to everybody on both.